Hi folks, my name is Phil and welcome to Expo Aviation. Today's trip report is our flight from Skiathos to Manchester with Jet2. We begin our journey at Skiathos Alexandros Papadiamantis Airport, where our Jet2 Holidays coach transfer dropped us off. The airport was refurbished during the winter of 2018 and I did a video covering that in detail during my visit last year. The link is in the description below. Things were unchanged this year, aside from a few social distancing measures. We were the only international flight leaving on this Sunday evening, so the terminal was rather quiet. Check-in was quick and we were given proper cardstock boarding passes despite having checked in online. Unfortunately, the restaurant and bistro located upstairs was closed, most probably because of a lack of expected custom rather than due to the virus. After passing through the security screening area, we have a further passport inspection and then we step into the departure lounge. The main duty-free shop is located on the first floor, however that was closed, again probably due to our low passenger figures. A smaller duty-free shop was located at the far end of the departure lounge as well as a kiosk offering some drinks and snacks. As we were the only flight leaving from this terminal, we could spread out and make the most of the 4 gate areas, which was handy given the social distancing requirements. Our aircraft was coming in from Manchester, and just like a week earlier it was running about 30 minutes ahead of schedule. Despite its early arrival, we were made to wait in the gate area with boarding taking place 5 minutes later than scheduled. To help with the social distancing, we would be walking out to the aircraft rather than using buses. Our aircraft today was G-JZBF, a Boeing 737-800 which was delivered new to Jet2 in December 2017, making this bird just over 2.5 years old. This aircraft was wearing the blue and white Jet2 Holidays livery. Would the interior match the exterior? Well, we'll have to wait until I stumble up the stairs. No, the interior was red and silver grey, just like on the outbound flight. After stumbling aboard, I take my seat on row 6. It's nice to sit near the front and it's only really possible on charter airlines given I can't afford business class. I like sitting up here as I get a good view of the engine and wing, plus the engine sounds better from up front. The seat area is clean and tidy with ample legroom. This does come at the expense of a seat pocket and some padding in the cushion, however the seats are comfortable. Due to our light load, boarding was completed in around 10 minutes, so once our paperwork was sorted and we'd waited on a Euro control slot, we were ready to go. As Jet2 does not have any in-flight entertainment or TV screens, the cabin crew performed a manual safety demonstration before we made the short taxi out to the runway. We would be using runway 01, so after giving the folks down at Amaretto a quick wave, we hit them with some jet blast and climb away from an island that I call Paradise. would be heading straight to Manchester this time with no fuel stop required. This was due to our light load, meaning we could uplift more fuel in Skiathos and avoid a splash and dash in Thessaloniki. Normally, we would be required to stop off on the mainland to take on more fuel, as the runway at Skiathos is too short for a lot of aircraft to fly to the UK non-stop. This depends on a lot of factors such as the aircraft type, passenger load, destination and even the temperature on the day. This should be pointed out to you when you're booking your flight. Since we were going to be going non-stop, it'd take 2 hours off our journey time. Once in the air, the cabin crew could begin their in-flight service, starting with the bar service. Despite being in row 6, it did take a while for the crew to reach us. To be fair, they were very busy as it seemed everybody wanted something to eat or drink. As it was an evening flight, we decided to be sensible and have a bite to eat along with our beer. We got one Budweiser each and a cheese and ham toastie. The beer is on offer with 2 for £8.50. The toastie was £4.30, which was a little steep but tasted nice, and that's what mattered. As you can see, the tray table is a bit on the small side. A separate cup holder is located further up the seat back. This is sized only to take a crew-issued plastic cup. A can will fall straight through it. I don't like drinking beer out of plastic cups, but I thought I'd demonstrate. Unlike our flight out, we had a full complement of literature. As there were no seat pockets, they are located in a slot higher up the seat. That display is intentional. I've not just stuffed them back in there. I think it's a bit creative, and besides, if you want to use your cup holder, you need to take the magazine out. We have a safety card and a duty-free or in-flight sales magazine. And what we missed out on last week was a menu with the prices for food and drink available from the bar service. They offer quite a bit of food with a variety of sandwiches served either cold or toasted, as well as light meals including chicken tikka, chili, mac and cheese and some vegan options. We also had an air sickness bag, which, believe it or not, seems to be one thing missing from most of my flights these days. The bag, that is. The purser or flight supervisor handed out these vouchers shortly after the bar service. It entitled us to 20% off the price of beauty products, fragrances and watches, but not model planes. Pity that. There was also an in-flight magazine, Jet Away. It was pretty run-of-the-mill. There were a few small articles in there related to some of the airline's destinations. There was a route map too, which was very impressive. Sometimes it's easy to forget just how big Jet2 are. There was also a few extra pages covering some in-flight bargains, just in case you hadn't read the duty-free magazine, of course. There was also a games and puzzles section. This is really handy when you remember that they don't have in-flight entertainment. I did manage to complete the word search and the scramble. Ignore my handwriting as we was encountering some turbulence at the time. You are encouraged to take your copy home, and since I'd filled in the puzzles, I took mine with me. The final item was something different, a small holiday brochure exactly like what you'd see in a travel agent's. While this was condensed, it covered a selection of holidays, including those for families, adults and city breaks. Even our hotel from Skiathos was included, though I wouldn't recommend staying there. After a little while, the cabin crew did a second drink service. This time we opted for a cup of tea. It cost £2.90, which was a bit much to be honest. It was most welcome though, as we hadn't had a proper brew all week, and that's a long story for another day. Shortly after that, the cabin crew began the duty-free service. I treated my missus to a cuddly alpaca and got myself a pair of model planes. I got one in the silver and red livery to match the one we flew out on last week, and one in the blue and white livery for the one taking us home. They were £9 each and would be a good souvenir of my first trip with Jet2. I hope to do an unboxing video on them at a later date, so stay tuned for that one. After that, it was just a case of getting settled. The cabin crew did a third drinks run later on in the flight, but we was okay. There wasn't much to see on the ground either, as it was overcast almost all the way across Europe. I'd say I had a very good experience with Jet2 on this flight. The crew were all very friendly and attentive. The seat area is clean and tidy with ample legroom. This comes at the expense of a seat pocket and some padding in the seat cushion, however the seats are comfortable. They don't recline either, which I think is a good thing, as I usually end up behind someone who tries to put the head in my lap, and not in a good way. One could say that the food and drink was a bit pricey, however as this was my first flight this year, I've got nothing to compare it to. It could just be inflation, as Thomas Cook's prices used to go up every year too. My only issue was a lack of seat pocket. I found it annoying to have to keep reaching down to get something out of my bag. Speaking of seat pockets, I'd normally have a power bank in mine with my phone charging up. However, Jet2 forbids the use of power banks, so you'll need to top up your phone's battery at the airport before you board. On the whole, this was a positive experience with Jet2 and Jet2 Holidays. While I had a horrible situation where they cancelled my trip by text message just over a week before we left, that matter was resolved pretty nicely. I covered that in my video on our outbound flight, and I'll cover it in more detail in a future video. I'm going to be comparing my experiences in dealing with the various holiday companies and airlines for cancelled trips. I'm just still waiting for Virgin Holidays to make a move. It's only been 3 months. As we was able to fly direct, it shaved off 2 hours from our flight time. This of course is a good thing, but do bear that in mind. If you've got a taxi booked, you may find yourself having to call them up when you land. We had to, and it added an hour to our journey, but that's not the airline's fault. The cab company should have checked the flight's progress. One big thing that Jet2 has in its favour is that on their package holiday deals you get a very generous baggage allowance of 10 kg for hand luggage and 22 kg for checked baggage. For comparison, both Thomas Cook and TUI are more restrictive with their limit at 15 kg. Hotel coach transfers are also included too, however I don't know how they're factored into the cost of the holiday. I will certainly be booking again with Jet2 and Jet2 Holidays. While I'm of course sad that Thomas Cook are no longer around, I do think that Jet2 were able to deliver a very comparable experience. Anyway, back to the flight. Before our descent, the captain made a PA highlighting our route into Manchester. We were approaching Skegness and would be heading north towards Sheffield and then following the M62 motorway across the Pennines. The skipper was really friendly, referring to us as an intrepid few with some jealous friends back home. This was another example of the friendly attitude that everyone I encountered at Jet2 had. There were a few clouds over the Pennines as we made our descent towards runway 23 right. We would be coming in over Staley Bridge, Hyde, Stockport and finally Heel Green, making a fairly smooth landing to conclude our flight. There was a short taxi over to Terminal 1 where we would be using Pier C. Prior to arrival in the UK, you're required to complete the government's passenger locator form. It can only be done within 48 hours of your arrival into the UK, so bear that in mind as you may end up filling this in on your phone and it can be a bit awkward. You also have to do one per passenger, unlike the Greek one which is one per household. I have covered the arrivals process in a separate video which looks at it in more detail as well as what is and what isn't open at the airport, so if you want to know more, go and check that out. Your completed tracking forms are checked at a temporary station which has been set up in the corridor which leads to passport control. These are all checked without exception. Once your form has been checked, you'll be given a paper ticket which you then hand to another border control officer before entering passport control. The paper just says that you've had your documents checked. Passport control is pretty much standard. The machines are in use and you'll be directed to use one as normal, though of course you'll need to remove your mask for the machine to verify your identity. Beyond that, it's over to the baggage hall, which is as normal, with the exception of more hand sanitizer stations, and then it's out into the arrivals hall. We were through in record time, and remarkably our suitcases were already on the belt going round and round. This was due to a lack of flights. It certainly wasn't normal for a summer Sunday. We grabbed our bags and headed through customs, and then we had to wait for the taxi home, but don't worry, I'm not doing a review of that. So that was my flight from Skiathos to Manchester with Jet2. I hope you enjoyed this trip report. I do have others to publish, including a round trip to Dublin with Aer Lingus, a flight from Atlanta with Virgin Atlantic, and maybe something else for later in the year. If you're interested in the history of airlines of yesteryear, then you should check out my Grounded series, as I cover bankrupt airlines from around the world. I also do other aviation related videos. Skiathos is a favourite location for me as I can catch so many low landings, so check back to see the videos from this trip, and once again, thanks for watching.